your resume will become a perfectly professional resume, the best resume. The first step of getting selected is already in your hands if you include good. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to address something that's important. If you're a college student, a working professional, definitely you're looking to make an awesome resume, the best resume. So how to create the best resume? How to create a resume that's more professional? And that is what we are going to discuss in this particular video. In today's lesson, we are going to learn how to create that particular professional best resume that gets selected at every stage. So stay tuned and keep watching because I'm going to tell you the 5 secret tips to make the best resume. I'm Shivangi Gupta, your CELTA certified tutor, certified by the University of Cambridge, the UK, and welcome to the channel. Subscribe this channel so that you do not miss out on any lesson. So moving forward with today's lesson, moving forward with today's video, how to create the best resume, the secret tips, ingredients, right? So today I'm going to tell that when we are creating a resume, we want to create that particular resume which will catch the eye of the employer, isn't it? We want to create a resume that will stand out, a resume that's perfect, that reflects that you are a reliable professional person, don't you? You want to look best professional through your resume. Why? Because resume is going to represent who you are. So there are going to be small things, small changes that you need to make in your resume, which is going to help you create the best resume. Things that we often overlook. So these 5 tips are going to make your resume a 10 on 10 resume. Believe me. So let's begin. If you are a professional, it's going to be important. If you are a fresher, for freshers, that's especially important because there are going to be lots of tips that I'm going to give you where you can make a mistake unknowingly. You might be making a mistake while creating a resume, and these tips that I'm going to give you today, they're going to solve all your queries. So if you're a professional, a fresher, for both, the video is important. Let's begin with all the 5 points now. Tip number 1. So tip number 1 is to use a professional email ID. Now you must be thinking that using an email ID, that's obvious. For an employer to contact you, you need to provide an email ID. But pay attention, I said a professional email ID. That's the mistake often people make. They do not use a separate professional email ID. Now what happens is there are going to be 2 conditions. Okay, condition number 1 is for freshers, and also it can be there for other people who are working professional. They might also end up doing this, that using your personal email ID. You might end up using your personal email ID, list it as a contact in your resume. Now that's a mistake. When you list your personal email ID in your resume, it creates an unprofessional impression on the employer. That's not a good impression, believe me. So using nicknames or using names like usernames, kind of XYZ usernames, all these kinds of things, Crystal, Princess, using these kinds of abbreviations and all that in the email ID, that creates very unprofessional impact. So please do not use your personal email ID. Do not use any kind of email ID with your nicknames, with other names, the stylish names and all that, pet names. No, do not do that. Please don't. Create a separate professional email ID for all the kinds of professional contact. Now, as a working professional, you might have a professional email ID. But there is one thing that a lot of people do. A simple mistake that might happen, that is, you are already working somewhere all those who are experienced working professionals. Now, when you are working at a particular place, you have an email ID, a professional email ID provided by your employer. For example, a person is working at XYZ company and they are applying to ABC company. Now, because they are working at the XYZ company, they already have an email ID that represents that they are working at XYZ. Okay, their name at the rate xyz.com. Now, a lot of times, because people are habitual of using that particular email ID, they list that email ID in the resume. They might be looking for better work opportunities. They might be applying at other companies for a higher position, right? But what happens is, if you are giving them the email ID provided by your current employer, again, that's a mistake. It creates unprofessional impression. Okay, so create a separate professional email ID that needs to be listed in your resume, specifically for all the professional contacts, for all the professional kind of mails that you're sending in order to seek some kind of freelance work or a job, maybe whatever it is. Create a professional email ID and keep your personal email ID separate. Tip number 2. Tip number 2 is very important. Pay attention. That's using appropriate keywords. Appropriate keywords. Now, in today's world, using appropriate keywords and sufficient keywords, that's important. Keywords. Keywords are the words that create content inside your resume. So the content must have good keywords. Now, what are keywords? Keywords are basically your skills, your educational qualification, your work experience, and any special achievements that you might have. They are the keywords, and a resume must be rich in these keywords. A lot of times people, they write long paragraphs, but what happens is they forget to include some keywords. Now, these keywords are important. Why? Because in this era of AI, what happens is that ATS tracker, that is application tracking system, right? ATS. ATS is basically an application which scans keywords in a particular resume. Now, the employer, what they do is they feed some keywords, particular keywords in the ATS. Now, this ATS scanner, this application will scan all the resume. A person who is well deserving might get rejected because ATS, application tracker, was not able to find any relevant keywords in that particular resume, proper keywords, and hence the resume that's rejected. So it's very important to include good keywords, relevant keywords. Remember, relevant means relevant. That's relevant to your job you're applying for, the position you're applying for, the job title you're applying for. Remember, tailor your keywords according to that. So include good quality keywords in your resume and stand out. The first step of getting selected is already in your hands if you include good quality keywords in your resume. Number 3. Tip number 3 is to choose a professional font. That's something very simple. Choosing a font, yet very powerful. Something that a lot of people neglect. Choosing any font will make your resume look untidy. Choose a professional font. Choosing simple, clear to understand professional font is very important, so that as soon as the employer picks your resume up, he or she is able to go through your resume quickly. That is, he or she is able to scan your resume quickly and comfortably. For that, you have to use professional fonts. Now, what are these professional fonts? According to me, personally, I suggest 2 fonts to everyone who asks me, which font should I use in my resume? And today I'm telling you that. That's Arial or Times New Roman. 2 fonts that are completely okay to use and they are professional. They give a very clean, professional, sleek look to your whole resume. It's readable, easy to understand, eye-catchy, and professional, powerfully professional. 4 benefits of using just 2 simple and professional fonts. They are Arial and Times New Roman. Tip number 4. Tip number 4 is to use a consistent format. Just like a font, professional font, you have to use a consistent format of your resume. That means it should have proper spacing and equal spacing between columns. It should have proper spacing between title, subtitle, the content, plus the proportion of the size between title and the content must be equal. So all the subtitles, all the titles must be of one font size, and all the contents that you're writing inside, that must be of similar font size. I'm not talking about style here. I'm also talking about size, because a lot of time people use different sizes of font, and that's not correct. That's not appropriate. It creates untidiness in your resume. Your resume appears untidy. Your resume appears so much jumbled up. And even though you might have included good keywords, still it's difficult to read it. It's difficult to pinpoint what's important, what are the qualities, what to highlight. The reader or the employer is not able to do that. So in order to catch the eye, in order to have it a professional appearance, you need to use a consistent format and do not use borders. Please don't do that. Do not use borders. Do not use colors. No, do not use colors. Resume is not something where you need to show your creativity. No, it's not a place to show creativity. It's a place to show professionalism. Tip number 5 is proofread for errors. Now, proofreading for errors, that's important. A lot of times people forget to proofread their resume, or they do not do it properly. Just skimming or scanning quickly is not enough. Read your resume once, twice, thrice, carefully, because it's your resume. That's your first impression. And if the first impression that you're sending to your employer, it will contain errors, grammatical errors, imagine the kind of impact it will have on the person. Because your employer expects you to proofread it and correct your grammar mistakes. Because making grammar errors, that's not a big deal. Anyone can have typing errors. Even if your grammar is great, there could be typing errors. Because typing errors, that's inevitable. Nobody do it knowingly. They just happen there because they are typing errors, right? It's your duty to correct them. Proofread. Check for any errors. And if you're not doing it, or if you fail to do it, your employer will think that you're not a responsible person. So it decreases your credibility. If you want to increase your credibility, automatically your credibility will increase if your resume is proofread. It's free of any grammar errors. So go proofread before sending your resume to your next employer. So if you follow all these tips, I'm sure that your resume will become the top shortlisted resume. Definitely it will pass all the tests, it will clear all the tests, and you will get a call for the interview. Because if you follow all the tips, your resume will become a perfectly professional resume, the best resume. So follow all the tips. The next time you're creating a resume, you're sending your resume to your employer, you're sending your resume for a particular job title. Check your resume, apply all the tips that I've told you today in this lesson, and then send it, and then wait for the magic to happen. So that's it for today. That was the video. I hope you liked it. Do like it, share it with your friends. Now I'm gonna meet you next time in a new video. Till then, everybody take care and bye.